The UN has been forced to pause food deliveries in northern Gaza due to increasing chaos in enclave. The body of a Russian soldier who switched sides during the war with Ukraine last year has been found with multiple bullet wounds in Spain.
Poland has proposed a 9-point action plan to the EU in order to restore its judicial independence and reverse Article 7.
The United Nations Food Agency is pausing deliveries of aid to northern Gaza. A spokesperson said the decision had not been taken lightly, but that safety and security could not be guaranteed for those delivering aid and those receiving it. There is, quote, complete chaos and violence due to the collapse of civil order, he said. On Sunday, aid trucks had been met with gunfire. The pause in food distribution comes as a UN study found that 1 in 6 children in Gaza was acutely malnourished.
Every time a family is displaced, they become more and more desperate, they lose some more resilience. And that's really a consideration when we are so worried about the threat of famine across the Strip. We know we can't reach everybody right now. It's impossible to get into the north.
Reports that Gaza's Nasser hospital has ceased to function following an Israeli raid. The World Health Organization has led 2 life-saving missions to transfer 32 critical patients, including 2 children.
You can think about the worst situation ever. You multiply by 10, and this is the worst situation I have seen in my life. It's the debris, the light, working in the darkness, patients everywhere.
On the diplomatic front, the US has vetoed a UN resolution for an unconditional ceasefire in Gaza. Instead, it is proposing a temporary ceasefire with added conditions, including all hostages are released, as well as facilitating aid to Gaza. Police say a bullet-riddled body of a man found in an underground car park in La Cala, near the eastern port city of Alicante, is that of a Russian pilot who defected into Ukraine last year. Maxim Kuzminov was found dead after allegedly moving to the town on the Mediterranean coast, in an area popular with holidaymakers. Last September, during a news conference, Kuzminov said he had switched sides because he opposed Russia's war on Ukraine. He also said that Ukraine promised him $500,000 in state payments, new documents, and protection for his family. Kuzminov's body was found alongside documentation matching his nationality, but with a different name. A burnt-out car apparently used by the attackers was found nearby. At first, police thought the killing was gang-related, but now the finger of blame is pointing to the Kremlin. In the past, its assassins have carried out a series of killings across Europe.
The tempo of Russian offensive operations near Avdiivka has reportedly dramatically slowed following the Russian seizure of the town, says the Institute for the Study of War in its latest assessment. Ukrainian Tavriisk Group of Forces spokesperson said that the number of Russian attacks in the Avdiivka direction significantly decreased in the past day, and that the Russian forces are currently regrouping and conducting clearing operations in Avdiivka. The UK Defence Ministry says it is likely that Russian forces lack the combat effectiveness to immediately exploit the capture of Avdiivka and will require a period of rest and refit. The Institute for the Study of War adds Russian forces will likely have to conduct an operational pause before resuming significant offensive operations in the Avdiivka direction, or will have to transfer additional reinforcements from the other sectors of the front to the area to prevent operations near Avdiivka from culminating and to continue attacks in this area. Russian forces have reserves available for such reinforcements in other sectors, but the Institute for the Study of War has observed no indication that the Russian command is moving those reserves toward Avdiivka at this time. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces have withdrawn to a new line of defense previously prepared in advance and fortified at several levels, according to the officials. Available imagery, which the Institute for the Study of War will not present or describe in great detail at this time to preserve Ukrainian operational security, does not support claims that Ukrainian forces lack prepared defensive positions west of Avdiivka.
Thousands of Ukrainian refugees went to Serbia when the war started. Some of them then continued to Western Europe. Others remained. In parallel, thousands of Russians decided to leave their country and move to Serbia, mostly due to the forced conscription into the Russian army. Serbian estimates say 150,000 Russians and 16,000 Ukrainians live in the Western Balkan country. Xenia moved to Serbia from Sakhalin, a city in the Russia Far East, just after the war started, and settled in Novi Sad.
When it all started, we felt very bad. We've been crying for a couple of days. And I felt like being in a cage. I feel my, maybe not guilt, but responsibility, because in my name, my country is killing people in neighboring country.
Due to EU visa requirements, Serbia considers the Russians as refugees. The Ukrainians who remained in Serbia say they want to return to their country. Ivana's husband is currently in Kyiv after 1 year fighting on the front.
Две години з супругом не видимося, а з Майкою і з сестрою жили у граду Кам'янець-Подольському. Лепо в Сербії, але у Кучі лепше у Кучі.
According to the official figures so far, about 80,000 Ukrainians, refugees, have been going through Serbia and settled into the EU.
Poland wants to reconcile with the EU. On Tuesday, Poland proposed a way out of Article 7, the EU's special procedure for when a country betrays the Union's values. The article was triggered against Poland in December 2017 after judicial reforms proposed by the previous government were seen to undermine the rule of law. The new government, run by former President of the European Council Donald Tusk, has presented a 9-point action plan to restore Poland's judicial independence and reverse Article 7.
The action plan is the step in the direction which might lead to the closure of the Article 7, but there is much work to be done, and Minister today presented a series of laws which will have to be adopted in Poland so that to get there.
Poland was the first country against which Article 7 was triggered, so the way out is not completely clear. Ideally, Warsaw would like to have Article 7 lifted by the 1st of May, the anniversary of Poland's accession to the EU. This analyst said this could be possible.
Indeed, there is no doubt that the new Polish government is truly determined to restore the rule of law and to do everything it takes to change the legal reality in Poland. And in fact, the main argument for the Commission or for the Council, for the EU member states to lift the Article 7 procedure would be to acknowledging that the reality in Poland has in fact changed. Even if not all pieces of legislation which are underway may be adopted by the end of April.
Article 7 is also known as the EU's nuclear weapon. The disciplinary measure includes stripping a country of its right to vote. But for Poland, it needs to be rid of it, not least to be back at the centre of the European decision-making process.
W jakim języku? If Poland is out of this procedure, it means that we are stronger as a member state, that we might have a more influence on how the European integration is going, and we will have more power in also supporting those ideas, projects that we would like to implement at the EU level.
Poland still needs to solve some internal issues with its president, Andrzej Duda, who has recently acted in the interests of the former government. But if Poland manages to exit Article 7, Hungary will be the only EU country left in its shackles.
Hungary is preparing to ratify Sweden's accession to NATO. On social media, the leader of the ruling Fidesz parliamentary group announced that he had asked the president to include the final vote on the parliamentary agenda for next Monday. Mate Coxes said they intend to support Sweden's entry into the Atlantic Alliance. On Saturday, Prime Minister Viktor Orban already said they were on track to ratify the accession, emphasizing the, quote, important steps taken to re-establish trust.
Four high-level Egyptian security officials went on trial in absentia before a Rome court on Tuesday. They are accused of the 2016 abduction, torture and slaying of Giulio Regeni, an Italian doctoral student in Cairo. Regini's body was found on a motorway days after he disappeared in the Egyptian capital in January 2016. His family said his body was so mutilated by torture that only the tip of his nose was recognizable. Human rights activists have said the marks on Regini's body resembled those resulting from widespread torture in Egyptian security agency facilities. This is the second time the four Egyptian security officials went on trial on charges related to Regini's death.